Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we've got something very different. Perhaps one of the most anticipated and exciting Warhammer titles to ever make it into a video game. This is Rogue Trader, a CRPG based on the Warhammer 40,000 universe, something that many people have been asking for well, a very long time. Now this is an alpha build, a very early alpha build in fact, and it was kindly provided by the devs at Alcat, so thank you so much for this, as I've been really hyped up about this. I've been talking about this a lot on the channel because I've wanted to wait to see actual big gameplay, and here we go, we are actually going to be able to check it out. Now this is going to be an early view of the game, this is alpha, so anything that you can see in this video or through streams, we will be streaming this later, can change. Keep that in mind. So if there's any bugs and stuff like that, it's alpha. I know for the majority of you watching this video, it already makes sense. Alpha is very early in development, but I just need to stress it out just in case. So this game starts the same way as most typical CRPGs. You know, you start, you pick your sex, male, female, and then you jump right into just choosing the difficulty, so you can go with normal or core. Don't you worry, I'll explain these in later videos. There's going to be a lot of videos, hopefully, on this, because I've been really excited. But after that, you just jump into your personality. So you'll have a little bit of a quiz section here, and this will then determine what your character has in terms of special stats and stuff, you know, extra perception and so on. You get a few different options, and this will help you tailor your character to exactly what you want, which, yeah, that's what you kind of want anyway from these types of things. And the great thing about this is obviously that if you decide to go a certain route with your character, if you want to have a different playthrough, then you can just go a completely different route. I've spoken to a few people who've played Alcat's other titles, and they've told me that their games are very highly replayable, so this is going to be great if it turns out the same way for Warhammer Rogue Trader. Okay, so we're going to start the game now, and already I can say that visually it's great, right? It's absolutely stunning. It's what I expected from this game. We've already seen some clips and screenshots and stuff, but actually getting in there and just seeing everything, it still looks and feels like Warhammer, which is a very important thing. If you're just watching this because you play other CRPGs, it might not sound like it's that important to you, but for a Warhammer fan, yeah, very big. So, you've already in the story, I'm not so sure if this is like at the very beginning, or if we are somewhere near the middle or something. Keep in mind, again, alpha, so they're not going to be showcasing the whole game here, which obviously makes sense. But the intro here is enough to kind of get you going. You get some exposition, some things that are happening in the story. You're going straight into Footfall. This is an area that you're going to be questing at the very beginning. From a Warhammer perspective, I'm already quite happy because they're doing a lot of exposition. As let's be honest, this universe is around 35 years now. There's a lot of lore. So just adding it in small amounts here and there is good enough to get you going, especially if you're not a Warhammer fan but you want to start learning. This is a good way to go. There seems to be a decent amount of different dialogue options depending on the NPCs that you do speak to, but from my play right now, from what I've done so far, where I've been reloading different parts, just starting again, just to see different outcomes, it works quite well. You're actually going to be able to get a lot of different outcomes, and hell, for an alpha, that's actually quite impressive. As again, with a CRPG, you want loads of different options. You want the replayability, and that's something I kind of got worried about because it's Warhammer and it can be wildly confusing. However, they also have an encyclopedia, and I think this is really good for a Warhammer game, especially as essentially it just gives you some cliff notes. But yeah, that's fine. It's just a little paragraph here and there. Sometimes it could be a little bit more. It very much depends on what you're clicking on, I believe. And as you progress through your story, as you start seeing the orangey brown type of words, you can click on those and that leads you to the encyclopedia. Yeah, you Warhammer fans will be used to this, but people who aren't, or people who aren't used to the 40k setting, yeah, very useful. It's going to help people kind of make their way and learn the universe and not feel like if they're just left in the dark. This is a big issue with a lot of Warhammer games where they just throw you in and expect you to know the lore, but if you've never heard of it before or you just casually play, a little bit of context goes a long way. And straight from the very beginning, you're already getting some options. As you go into Footfall, you're given the option if you want to actually announce your arrival, or if you want to decide to go there incognito. I've mostly played with the announce, and what I want to do is on a stream, which I will do later this afternoon, we'll be going incognito just to see the different results, as I feel from my experience so far that this alpha might actually have a lot to show, and this will be promising because I don't think there's a release date just yet, at least to my knowledge, and I really just want to praise the visuals once again because This is really pretty. This is very, very much Warhammer, and I'm absolutely in love. Literally just love at first sight. This has a lot of promise. So right from the start of the alpha, you'll have access to a few different characters. They're all actually really, really cool. The models look absolutely fantastic. You can get the stats there too. Don't you worry, there's going to be individualized videos for each of them as we progress, hopefully. As, yeah, I feel like this is something that I could make a lot of content on. Like, a lot of content. Anyways, yeah, models look great. And, yeah, it might not be the most important thing, but when it comes to a Warhammer game, sometimes you just want things to look as cool as possible. They're all pretty varied, and you'll see their combat capabilities as soon as we get into combat. There's going to be a little bit here, but absolutely awesome. If you're used to the whole, like, if you're used to CRPGs, if you're used to, like, D&D and stuff, you won't have an issue. This is very, very easy stuff to kind of get used to. And if you're new to this type of game, but you haven't really played that style before, it's kind of like a learning process, but it's not that difficult. I know that might seem redundant, but it's important to let people know that they shouldn't feel like, oh, this is just going to be non-stop books and writing notes and stuff, you know? Anyways, as you would have already seen, you've got a group manager, so you can actually pick who comes down with you to certain different planets and stuff, which I think is going to be quite cool. I don't know if that's going to change around later in the gameplay, if it's just like, do you want to bring everyone, or do you want people spreading about? I don't know. This is something that I'm exploring with you guys, because this is like more of a first impressions thing. But I kind of like this. I like the functionality. It's going to be kind of cool to see there. There's also just the art loading in. It's giving you some ideas about how certain characters are. It gives you some backstory. I think that's really, really cool. You get a little bit of a warm welcome at the very beginning, depending on how you think of it, because, yeah, you know, I officially said that I was on my way, and that's expected to receive some people at the port. Especially being a rogue trader, you expect a lot of political jargon, because, well, yeah, you know, rogue traders are quite important. But then it starts getting a little bit more interesting, as yeah, some people were waiting for me, and it seems that they're not happy about my arrival, and already you're getting thrown into the first bit of combat. As the ambush is fairly large, I'm not too sure if this is going to get scaled down or not. I did see a lot of enemies here, and you'll start to see them now. I will tell you that the combat itself is turn-based. This was confirmed by Alcat a long time ago, but some people didn't know. But turn-based combat is perfectly fine for these types of games. I know some people wanted real-time, but Alcat themselves said that they wanted to be able to perfect the system, so only one system was going to be there. Anyways, the usual stuff as you can expect from these types of turn-based games. You've got a lot of different abilities, you've got a lot of different attacks, depending on your equipment, of course, and what your abilities are for your characters. If you played stuff like Baldur's Gate and stuff, you should be okay. Keep in mind, and I can't stress this enough, that if you click the wrong thing, like I did kind of early on, you will do damage to yourself. You will do damage because friendly fire is on here. But other than that, yeah, if you plan where to go, if you plan where to shoot, remember a lot of stuff is kind of brawl based, so like you will have like a 75% chance in certain cases, unless you've got like point blank range or other modifiers working. There's also some effects and all that. But don't worry, later on we will have a full battle showcasing some abilities and all that. Right here, I'm just doing some basic shots, just to kind of get used to the game system itself. But the battle system is very, very easy to learn. I was having a lot of fun here just from the very beginning. I still think that I was a bit overwhelmed with the amount of enemies, and I'm very lucky that I brought everyone with me, I must say, because, yeah, there were a lot of them. Now, they didn't do too much damage, at least from what I can kind of gather. I think I did okay. But yeah, just go around, shoot at the enemies, use your different types of weaponry. It's very useful that everyone in your squad seems to be very different. So you've got some snipers and long range, you've got some psychers, you've got some good melee. The main player character is actually quite good in both melee and also using the plasma pistol, that I've got access to. I'm not sure if changing around your beginning questions would have given you different equipment. But yeah, like I said, simple enough. You do an action, you do your attack, you do all your usual stuff, and then you put end turn, move on to the next character, and so on. And you'll see it's pretty randomized, because it's not just like you do everything with one squad, then everyone does everything with their enemy squad. This is just based on different factors, which we'll get to in other videos. Don't you worry, as we get closer and closer to launch, whenever that may be, there's going to be a lot of videos. And I'd say that after you dispatch these enemies, this is where the alpha truly begins, as this is kind of just like a way to introduce you to everything. You had some dialogue, you've had some combat, now you've familiarized yourself with the game systems, and now you can begin. And yeah, it's actually kind of cool. So let's start moving on to the other stuff. And as you haven't noticed, I'm trying as much as possible not to talk about any spoilers. The idea is the less spoilers, the better, because this is a story-based game. You want to experience it. It doesn't make sense if I spoil it in any way, shape, or form. So I'm trying my absolute very best to take away any story elements or being as very minimalistic speaking about the story as possible. Anyways, the enemies are down, and now you can just kind of get your footing back. You'll get a little bit of dialogue, so you can actually get a lot more dialogue options, because there's going to be a lot of dialogue. It's a CRPG and it's a Warhammer game. There's going to be a lot of dialogue, but it gets expanded upon even further as you start looking towards, say, for example, looting and inventory management. Again, I know might not be the most exciting things for some people, but I do know people who are kind of curious about these things and would like to know about it, because apparently it does vary with certain games. I'm not 100% too sure about that myself, but yeah, you do get looting. You can sell the equipment and stuff later on. As you can see, these items don't cost anything at the very moment. I'm not too sure if that's intended or not, but yeah, you've got like everything that you need to know. Everything stat-wise is up there, which I'm very happy about. It's not like certain other games where you don't really get a lot of details. It'll just say armor deflection, but won't give you any information as regards what the armor property is and all that. What I think is a really nice touch is it'll tell you where you acquired the item from too. I actually really like that, because you can kind of see what items will last throughout your campaign, how long they will last, how long they'll be with your characters. Being able to just finally explore a bit, the areas just look phenomenal. Everything is just exactly how I expected it to look, which is, yeah, Warhammer. I know that might sound a bit annoying, but I always get a little bit worried when devs who have never really done a Warhammer title before get their hands on it, because we've seen it happen in the past where it just doesn't look right. But for this, yeah, I think it's perfect. I'm honestly in love with this. Just going through all the different locations, everything feels full. Everything feels like a living world, which is something which is pretty cool. You'll get a lot of dialogue. Hell, there's even some side missions too. So you're already getting thrown into just trying out new stuff from the very beginning, and I just really hope this continues. While the game is playing in the background and you can see some stuff, don't worry, you can hear some sound design a little bit later on when we showcase the big battle. Let's talk about performance. So yeah, this is an alpha build, and I don't know how early or late alpha this is. I'm imagining a little bit later, but yeah, this ran really, really well. Considering the fact that I had to record through Shadowplay, and it was recording my desktop screen essentially rather than the game itself, because early on these types of games don't generally link up to Shadowplay too well. I must say, this ran incredibly well. I didn't notice big frame drops, I didn't notice stuttering, and I played for a decent amount of time. I got into a few different battles. I didn't notice any hard jumps when I was playing a battle and it was moving the camera to other enemies that I was fighting. Yeah, I was quite surprised, honestly. It would only hard jump, obviously, if I was away, and because it's normally quite fluid, but then it just like throws out if you move the camera away. No crashes as far as I've seen so far. However, when I do a big stream later on this evening, we can kind of test the limits and see from there, because, well, you know, it's still an alpha and I'm expecting crashes, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I just want to kind of test the limits so far, because if the game is going to be running better than this, as you should be aware, alpha generally is a bit volatile, beta gets a little bit better, and then obviously a full release, in theory, knock on wood, should be running as smoothly as possible. If it's already this smooth in an alpha, I am actually really, really excited. I'm actually really, really excited. Anyways, getting back to the game itself, there's already a decent amount of events which are kind of tied to the main story, but aren't really tied to the main story. The way I'm seeing it is it's a side quest, but it kind of links up from what I'm seeing. However, yeah, it's cool. You're already getting to test out some different ways of playing. You're already going to be able to do some, you know, some checks like cohesion and stuff like that, which I think is really, really cool. The end of the day is you're expecting to see as much of this game as possible in its alpha state. Obviously not like the complete game, you're not going to have that. But the alpha is going to serve for a lot of people to see, well, is this worth it or not? And so far, for me, it's looking pretty good. It's honestly looking pretty good. Like I've said, I've not played other Alcat releases. I've seen a bunch of gameplay, but I'm actually regretting not playing other stuff that they've released, and I might do that after this alpha is done in an effort to just get more used to these devs, because if the alpha is looking this solid, their fully released games must be absolutely amazing. So I can't wait to check this out. Until then, what I'm going to do is you're going to get more videos, and obviously I will be streaming later on tonight. I'm going to leave you with a battle here, and I'm going to leave it with this sound so you can listen to the sound design, you can see effects happening, you can see different things going around. There are a few cuts here, but that's mostly because my shadow play was just kind of stopping. It was a little bit of an error that I had. So yeah, let me know what you think about this game in the comments below. Do you want to see more of this on the channel? Because, you know, I'm a big Warhammer fan. I really love the idea of a CRPG. I am incredibly jealous that it's not a Warhammer Fantasy game, but I guess, yeah, you know, Rogue Trader, it just kind of fits. It fits with the theme. I've been reading through the rulebook of Rogue Trader recently, so it was actually kind of nice. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion.
As the Emperor commands, I act. Faith without deeds is worthless.
Let's see how they respond to this.
Anything else?
At your beck and call. Reduced to dust! It will be done. I will do my duty. ears are ringing.
If I may, another foe painted black.
Just a minor setback.
That's gonna hurt!
I've suffered worse.
I'll do it. None can escape the Emperor's judgment.
Already done. Opposing me was your biggest mistake.
But of course, be gone.
Indeed. One fewer target.
Isn't this a job for the...
Guided by faith.
I shall not fear.
Anything else?
Activate calculated fury algorithm.
I'm not accustomed to being ordered around.
Doubt is for the weak.
Suits my purposes.
I've seen worse battles than this in my time. Yeah, sure have.
We shall prevail. None shall stand in my way.